FBI Director Kash Patel says authorities are treating the shooting of the two National Guardsmen as a matter of national security. Joining us to discuss is retired U.S. Navy Captain Armen Kurdian. He's also a national security analyst and candidate for California State Senate. So, Armen, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for joining us today. So the suspected shooter is identified as an Afghan national. And now Citizenship and Immigration Services is stopping all immigration requests by Afghan nationals indefinitely. Can we get your first thoughts on this?
Hello, Don. Well, it's an awful situation. My heart goes out to the families of these two soldiers, one or both of whom may not, have their family members around for much longer. This is certainly an awful situation, considering the program where the mass chaos that ensued following the horrible and reckless withdrawal from Afghanistan, when a lot of people came over here and paperwork was lost. It might be a good time to go back and start checking some of these people. Certainly, we want all those folks who served honorably with U.S. forces, whether they were interpreters, whether they were guides, whatever they were, who put themselves in danger. We want them to get the kind of treatment that an American citizen would want and bring them over to this country. Well, this gentleman also apparently worked for our U.S. troops over there. And it's interesting to see that maybe several years after he came over here, that he was radicalized to take these guys on. And apparently he drove all the way across the country in order to actually do it or make a statement. So very, very interesting to find out the background. And this is really what we're going to need to do. It's going to be a Herculean task. We're going to need more people. We're going to need to use artificial intelligence to find some of these trends, to find perhaps some ties or connections to people overseas, any other money that folks might have had access to that comes from overseas money. But we cannot have this kind of thing continue to happen in our country.
So what do you make of this apparent contradiction or paradox, if you will, where the suspect previously, actually worked with the U.S. government, multiple entities, including the CIA, and now is alleged to have shot National Guard members? How do you look at this?
Well, you see this kind of thing all the time, whether it's an incident like this or someone who's seemingly normal, just your regular everyday neighbor, and all of a sudden one day snaps and does something absolutely crazy. It could be for a variety of reasons. It could be for a perceived wrong. Perhaps he had a family member that was not treated well by the American government. Didn't come over here and he was angry and wanted to lash out in order to do it. It's hard to imagine that this was sort of your kind of run-of-the-mill act of terrorism that we've seen, all over the world, coming over here and having this kind of an attack. So it's all going to come down to looking at this guy's social media, looking at the people that he associated with, his workplace, places that he was at. Did he meet with anybody? Was he radicalized via somebody overseas? Was it simply a case of him getting angry because of a perceived wrong? That perhaps it's not terrorism in the usual sense. Perhaps he was just simply angry at the U.S. for some different, strange reason. It could be a number of things. And I think that is going to be the most important thing that we figure this out, because if it turns out to be a one-off, that's one thing. If it turns out to be connected to foreign organizations, foreign terrorist groups, that's an entirely different story altogether.
So, Armen, you said earlier maybe we should recheck people coming into this country. Your thoughts on whether this event could change how the government screens individuals who enter the U.S.?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We saw just the chaos of people coming over this country, people falling out of airplanes, folks coming into planes without proper paperwork. It was this mad, crazy rush, the sea of humanity that was coming overseas, and a lot of good people that were left in Afghanistan that we weren't able to bring out because of the insanity that ensued. There is a reason why we have a law. There is a reason why we have vetting. There's a reason why we don't allow people to simply cross the border and come into our country without knowing who they are, where they come from, their criminal background, or any of their personal history. We want people to become U.S. citizens. We want people to come to this country. But it's not simply, hey, come on in and we'll figure it out in about 5 years. This is what happens when you have a chaotic event, when the bureaucracy is not able to handle it, and when you have elected leaders that are simply trying to supersede the law and order simply in the name of humanity or are caring about people. And in their lust and their drive to show their humanity and how they care about everybody, people actually get hurt. People die.
And on that note, do you think policy changes could follow? Could it change how we view the kind of threats that our law enforcement are potentially facing domestically?
Honestly, Don, I think we have the policies and the laws that are in place. They just simply weren't followed. They haven't been properly enforced. They've been, overridden. They've been, gone around them. As we've seen during the Biden administration, people coming across the border, not just from Mexico and South America, but people coming over from Africa, people coming over from China, just coming over to this country and then given a free pass to live here while they're deciding whether or not to give them asylum or not. It's absolutely ludicrous. So I don't necessarily know that we necessarily need policy changes. We just need to enforce the laws that are on the books.
Okay, and Armen, as you know, Trump has called for 500 more National Guard troops in D.C. So when this is over, when the dust settles, what do you think the conversation will look like regarding National Guard development or deployment?
Look, the polls are very, very clear. The majority of Americans want crime to come down. The majority of Americans are good with supporting law enforcement where it is necessary in some of these high crime cities. I've never seen elected leaders from local all the way up to governor's office fight so hard to protect criminals in their own cities at the expense of their own citizens and their populace. So bringing another 500 soldiers into D.C. is probably fine to continue that presence, to show the security and dissuade people from committing crimes. Crime was coming down in the city last year, but it has continued and it has kind of accelerated downwards with this continued presence in a lot of the high traffic areas. But let's remember there are some of the more impoverished areas of D.C. Ethnic minorities, blacks living in areas where there's still there's a lot of crime happening in those neighborhoods. We can't forget about them because they're American citizens too, and they need to be protected against crime, whether it's gang violence, whether it's drugs, whether it's human trafficking, whether it's quote unquote protection rackets. All of these kinds of things. We need to support law enforcement, to give law enforcement the tools that they need and enforce the laws on the books. Put criminals away. Don't put them back onto the streets where they can do more damage, and keep our streets safe.
And Armen, I want to see if we can end on a positive note. It is the holidays, after all. It's unfortunate that this happened, but what keeps you hopeful about this American experiment, the direction of the country right now? What message would you send this Thanksgiving Day?
That's an absolutely excellent question. I'm thankful for those two soldiers, brave soldiers, who had just signed up 24 hours prior, who decided that they were going to take on the mantle of defending their country. And in less than a day, they're in a hospital fighting for their lives. This is the longest running constitutional republic in human history, the longest running form of government without serious change that has happened. We fought a civil war. We were able to keep ourselves together. There is no other economic or government system in all of recorded history that has been able to unleash human energy in a positive way, such as this country actually has. And I was honored to serve my country for 25 years. I'm honored to live in this free nation with my family and friends. I'm honored to run for the state Senate and serve my state in a selfless capacity, because it is certainly not for my own personal enrichment. But we have to just thank our Creator for the blessings of this country. And we need to do a better job of teaching our kids as to how fortunate that they are to actually live in a country like this, whereas so many other parts of the world, they could be thrown in jail just for saying the wrong word. We're even seeing this in some of our Western European countries. So, God bless the United States of America. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you, and to you, your families. Well done.
And, Armen, we were talking about Thanksgiving a couple days ago, and one of our guests said, you really won the God's lottery if you were born in the United States or are able to stay in this country. That's the gist of what this person said. And once again, our thoughts are with the victims, the National Guard members in the hospital and their families. And Armen, thank you for your service to this country. Thank you for speaking with us.